Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is the third episode in a series of starting a new job. And so we talked about the first week on the job, we talked about the first month on the job, and today we're going to talk about the first 90 days because that is an opportunity for you to build your authority, to build momentum and your credibility. Now, before we get into it, I do want to preface this by saying it usually takes 6 months to a year to really get into a job. So don't expect after 90 days for everything to be perfect because you're still going to be learning the ropes. You're still going to be navigating those, the secret, figuring out how the power flows and how decisions are made. So there's still a lot that you are going to be figuring out, which is completely fine. But the first 90 days are still important. So as a reminder, if you haven't listened to the last 2 episodes, please go back and do so. The first week we focused on how to listening, build your presence, clarifying your mandate without rushing into action. Afterwards, we talked about your first month, how to start showing your leadership style, start thinking about early wins, starting to deepen your relationships. And today, we're going to start a stretch that really will people are going to start to judge. In short, that is the conclusion. People are going to start to judge at the 90-day mark. You're not new anymore. People are watching how you operate, assessing your ability, your skill, your behavior, your attitude. And for you, a lot of times the adrenaline of those early days has worn off. And now you're going to have to start delivering impact, results. And so in this episode, I want to talk to you about 5 strategies to help you build that authority and momentum and credibility that is going to go beyond this first honeymoon period. So my first point is to own the narrative. Reintroduce your role so that it is clear for everyone, not only for you, but for everyone else. Because the first 90 days are not just about learning. It's up to you to send a message on how you want to lead. And one of the best things that you can do during this time period is host a team meeting. Or if you can't see each other in person, you can also write a summary email that repositions your leadership. So it's not about announcing big changes, but it's about saying and communicating, here is what I've learned, here is what I'm prioritizing, and this is how we're moving forward. And you can also include things like what you're proud of and where you see opportunities for improvement. And communicating something like this, it can only help your credibility because people feel informed, they're not surprised. And if you do it authentically, then you're not looking to impress. You're inviting the team into your thinking and they feel reassured and usually aligned. So my question for you for this first point is, what would your team say that you are focusing on right now? Is it aligned with what you want to be known for? And does your team even know what you're focusing on? My second point is to systematize your influence. So what I mean by that is up until now, influence a lot of time comes from presence, from being in the room, asking good questions, showing that you're paying attention. But after 90 days, people need more than that. They need a little bit of reassurance and predictability. And so this is your opportunity to be really proactive. So set up, and this is what I recommend with my clients because it is very reassuring for the teams that work underneath you. Set up consistent rhythms, whether it be weekly reports, clear meeting agendas, a regular decision-making forum. One of the clients that I'm working with right now created a simple Monday morning routine, priorities and progress. It was an email that went out to her teams, copied her boss. A lot of clients also do it on Friday, kind of to summarize the wins of the week. It's just 15 minutes, but it was very foundational and it created a huge amount of trust because people knew that she was being honest and transparent, and it just built her credibility. And people started to look forward to it. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about in terms of consistent rhythm. So my prompt for you to think about is, what do people currently rely on you for? And how can you make that more visible, repeatable, and reliable? My third point is, a lot of times when you take on a new job, we always talk about quick wins. You should always, or no, at this point in time, not always, you should also be focusing within the first 90 days on one high impact initiative. So you're going to start needing some proof points. Not perfection. You don't need a complete overhaul or complete transformation, but evidence that what you see, you've made some decisions and you're moving it forward. I suggest starting with something that's been stuck. So it could be like one of my clients, we worked on a content approval process because it was the number of people who needed to give input and the number of people who needed to give feedback and approve. It was just long. It was creating a bottleneck. It was frustrating everyone. So she simply streamlined the workflow. And what was interesting also about this is that it affected several departments. And so it wasn't just her team that saw the impact of the decision she made and the process she changed. It was much bigger than that. And of course, she made the change, announced it, explained it, and that also improved, I would say, the perception of her as somebody who could listen, act, and simplify. So it doesn't have to be huge, but pick something that is visible. I suggest pretty strategic and, of course, connected to your mandate. So the question here is, what's something your team or your peers constantly complain about that you could simplify or decide on? My point number 4, continue in these first 90 days to strengthen strategic relationships. I hope by now that you've met most of the key players. And so this is an opportunity to go deeper. You need to fully understand how decisions get made. Who can help you amplify your impact? Where is that informal power? And who are all the people that you need when you need information or you need to get things done, especially when it gets really complex? So I suggest scheduling a second round of meetings. And don't just talk status. It's not a get to know you meeting, but talk strategy. And it's a great way to get some initial feedback on just putting your thoughts out there to see who's aligned, where you're going to get the biggest pushback. So it's almost like a reverse feedback meeting. You could also put your ideas on the table and then ask, well, what else do you think I'm missing? Or what do you think my team needs from me right now? But this is a perfect opportunity to start testing the waters of things that you want to push through. It also shows curiosity, some humility, and it's going to give you valuable information. So think about, who are your top 3 influencers in the organization right now? How are you building trust with them? How are you building credibility? And my 5th point is, do not forget about yourself. Manage your energy. Those first 90 days are emotionally very intense because you're constantly, first of all, you're absorbing so much information. It is extremely tiring. You're probably putting a little bit of pressure on yourself. You could have some pressure internally. You're constantly making decisions. You're getting surprised left and right. Your team could be aggressive with you. You're proving yourself. So it can be really quickly like a pressure cooker inside you. So I always tell my clients, your energy is part of your presence. If you are exhausted, distractive, reactive, that is what people experience. And that is not how you should be showing up in those first 90 days. I once hired somebody, and it was a big hire, but her job was really important, and we really wanted her to succeed. And every single time I was sitting down with her almost once a week or once every 2 weeks, and she would complain. I mean, she had only been there, it was in that first 90-day period, and every single meeting was a complaint. And so she was already exhausted. That is not the energy that you want to have for you or for the people around you. So one of the things that I suggest doing is building in downtime. And I said this over and over. If you've been listening to my podcast for a while, schedule your personal time first. And I always say this to all my clients. Schedule if you want to go to yoga, if you have a painting class, if you want to go to your kids' activity, schedule that in your agenda first, because that is also going to give you energy and fuel your soul. Those things are just as important as work. Personally, what I did is I used to go for a walk every single morning. I just needed that time before I started my day. And I'm not checking email, and I'm not on the phone making calls. It's just a walk for fresh air and sunshine. So my question to you here is, what boundaries do you need to reestablish if things have started to slip, which I know that they do, to stay sharp and ready? And it might be also having a work from home day or 2 days a week. In the beginning, I don't suggest more than 1 a day, actually, because you need to work also on your visibility. But 1 a week is, I think, gives you kind of that breather. I personally prefer Wednesday. So in summary, that 90-day mark is where, the potential and the reason that you came here, people are starting to see and judge. And how you continue is going to determine your influence, your impact, and the success you have. So it might be a little bit of tough love, but I want you to own the narrative. If you don't drive what is being said about you, somebody else will. So build the systems and the processes you need. Drive the impact, nurture key relationships, and take care of yourself. That is really, really important. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend. There are so many people who are navigating their own leadership transition. And I'm sure that they would benefit from what we've talked about today. And if you are ready to go deeper, I work with women starting a new job 4 to 6 months so that we work through all of these things together so that they feel supported, so that they have a sounding board and a sparring partner. Please reach out. I'd love to have a call with you, see if we are a good fit for one-on-one executive onboarding coaching. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week, everyone. Take care.